Good morning, everyone. Welcome from New Zealand by myself, Darren and Pip. We're going to be giving a presentation or demonstration as well on automated video editing with FME. And yeah, we've got a couple of bonus tools there to show as well. Bit of an introduction. So, yep, as I said, my name is Darren Fergus. I've been in New Zealand now 13 years. And if there's any doubt, yes, I am Scottish. In fact, I never used to be in the data integration world, and I never used to have anything to do with FME or GIS. I went back to university probably about 10, 11 years ago now, geology, GIS. Never looked back since. I'm an FME certified professional in both desktop, server, and also a trainer. And familiar with Esri Stark, ArcGIS Pro, ArcGIS Online, etc., etc. I've done some City Engine, procedural modeling, custom scripts, and also did some work with Blender, creating some kind of more lively, real-looking animations using Blender, which is kind of cool. And look, I also run a company called ExtremeX. It's an experience-based company based in Wellington. We operate some pretty cool high-end cars, McLaren, Lamborghini, and we've got a Captain America-themed Mustang. But the real cool thing about it is it relates to what we're going to talk about today with video editing, because that's definitely a problem in the business that I want to be able to solve. But more importantly, the underlying booking system is being custom built by myself and is powered by Safe Software, the Safe Software platform, who kindly sponsor me to be able to use their software, which is kind of awesome. Yeah, and today we've got Pip Norris with myself to help go through this demonstration. Pip, if you just want to give everybody a quick introduction, please.
Hiya, I'm Pip. I'm a Kiwi based in Auckland. But a quick background, I've studied geology and geography, and I've been at Locus almost a year. Prior to that, I worked in local government and at Auckland Airport.
Cool, and you're a big lover of FME, right?
Sure.
So much fun, yay, go FME. Okay, that's a bit cheesy, but anyway. So Locus is a platinum reseller for Safe Software. We've got a great relationship with Safe, and we leverage that quite often because they give us support and they help us understand what's coming in the future. But anyway, we provide consultancy, training, licensing, and really we you know, all the solutions that we provide are everything FME basically. Okay, the business was founded by John Arnerick back in 2008. He's a chartered accountant by trade, but since then we've expanded year on year. We've gone from New Zealand to Australia. We're present in a couple of other countries as well. Ruby Donaldson is the director of Australia, and actually I would normally be split kind of 50-50 between New Zealand and Australia, but that's kind of changed a little bit with COVID. Anyway, so we've got 9+ technical experts that are certified within Locus, and yeah, that's pretty much us. Exciting company. So for today, to set the scene for the agenda, we're going to cover off video editing with FME and machine learning, because we need to be able to use machine learning to be able to do what we're going to do. We're going to look at what's the problem we're trying to solve, how can FME help, you know, what kind of transformer is going to be using, you know, what's the logic, what's the iterative development behind that, and a live demo really showing that process of taking conceptually around what we're going to do to edit the video, how we relate that into the workspace and the functionality. And then after that, we're going to look at what other use cases could we use this type of integrated technology leveraging FME, and why might that be useful. And then we're going to look at, if you know, just real short, we're going to look at some other cool little tools. I love the system caller, all the different things you can do with it, especially when it comes from automated testing and automation configuration and deployment, especially when it relates to AWS. So we're going to look at some cool tools there. All right, so what's the problem? In summary, basically, I used to running ExtremeX, we used to capture videos, and there's a lot of time that takes to edit videos. For example, you know, which customer clip relates to which customer's experience. You know, it's painful to work that out sometimes because the derived generic file names that come from the camera generic system, you know, you'd have date, time, and then the front-facing, back-facing camera, but there was no, it didn't link to the actual customer until you had to pull that all in, try and relate that information. So that took a bit of time. And of course, once you've done that, you know, you've identified the customers with inside the video. Usually it was a visual check, and then you bring them into some editing software. It takes time to load the videos in, and it would take time to identify the specific locations within the video that you wanted to clip out, because we're not going to supply 15 minutes worth of ride, because you just want the fun parts, the acceleration, the pops and bangs going through the tunnel, and some of the other bits of fun that we have on the road. And then, of course, once you've done all that, you've got to be able to process those edited clips into one seamless video. And usually we take a 15-minute video, clip it into 2-minute video. And yeah, look, it's just slow. It took up a lot of time. And I spent a lot of time over the last couple of years trying to think, you know, what are other solutions could we maybe use, especially having the ability and access to the real uniqueness of FME. So option number one, we've got a camera fitted with GPS capability. If it had geofence functionality, we could set up a geofence. It would trigger the camera to only operate based on specific segments of route. That would be great. Obviously, you could do that manually, but when you're concentrating on driving, you don't want to be tapping things, just in case some of you might be thinking that. Then the second option is, just on the first option. So really, there's no camera out there that has that functionality that I could find, unless it's a security camera. And that camera would only work if you're coming into your geofence based on your house location, right? So it didn't work in the sense of what I required it to do. And then there's perhaps camera fit with GPS capability, and maybe we used FME editing to extract those GPS points and then supply that to some geometry based on spatial location of where we want to edit out those specific slots. We've got a start time, end time, and then we edit the videos that way. But in this instance, we've got one less than that again, because actually we didn't have GPS enabled on the camera that we have. So a camera plus no GPS. We've got front-facing camera, and we've also got inside. Maybe we could do something really cool using FME editing, recognition service using visual cues to identify location, and then use some open source editing software to be able to extract those videos. So thinking about that, what types of transformers might we want to use to help us solve this problem? So FME transformers are going to use the system caller. I mentioned that earlier on, some really cool stuff. Honestly, system caller is really an incredible thing, actually. But we're going to use FMMPEG, and we're going to use the system caller to be able to initiate specific transactions on there, or specific functionality. We're going to need recognition connectors, so you're going to need to have an AWS account for this and registered for the AWS recognition service, spelled with a K, just so you know. We need to use the HTTP caller. We're going to send a request to Google Calendar. Remember what I said earlier on? So FME is integrated. It provides the booking system for ExtremeX. Therefore, every event is in a calendar. So if we could get the times from the calendar, if we could get the times to the videos, we could send that to the calendar, work out the name. That makes it easier to be able to work out whose video is what. So when we edit, we know who we can supply it to, and group them together as well, which is quite important. And then there's other FME smarts there that we obviously apply to that logic. All right, so yeah, the live demo now, we're gonna pass over to Pip. But just before we do, I just want to set the scene of just kind of breaking up those video components again, so it's nice and clear for everybody. So number one, all the videos that we capture are a 15-minute route, right? And we do this through the day. Usually there's a 15-minute interval between one ride and the next. The video clips are captured in three-minute intervals, so we need to be able to identify groups of videos that relate to a specific customer. We want to work out how long the rides are, how many videos are associated with that. We want to be able to then extract the start time of the video. Why do we need that? Because when the camera's recording just parked up, we don't really care about that. We want to be able to, if you think about a 15-minute ride, it's usually dependent on traffic, but most part, it's like we know exactly the breakdown of that route. So that 15-minute ride, in 3 minutes, we expect to be on ramp number 1. In another 2 minutes, on ramp number 2. Another 5 minutes, we expect to be going under the tunnel, and so on. So if we find the exact start time where we're actually driving on the road, and that's where we're going to use the recognition service, it will allow us to set the cut scenes for everything thereafter. But I'll let Pip talk to that. All right, so Pip, yeah, without further ado, I'm going to pass over to you, and if you can show us, break down the individual components of the workspace for everybody, and then we can do a test run and we can show everybody what the result is. Yep, I'm just going to make you a presenter. 2 seconds.
Sure, thanks, Darren.
Here we go. I'm just going to mute myself, Pip. All right.
All good. Right, so here's our workspace. Kick it off. We need to locate the files. Done that using a path reader. Tested on whether they're MP4s. And
right, Pip, just 1 second, Pip. I just paused you on that. I think you made me presenter again. 1 second, yeah. I'll just send this back to you. I'm not sure what happened there. 1 second. Make presenter. There we go. Yeah.
Is that good?
Phew, I got worried there for a minute. Thought you were trying to make me present all that. No, I'm just joking. When you're ready, Pip.
Cool. So here's the workspace. Pretty much, first things first, we need to find the videos, read them in using the path reader, test for the MP4s, and then generate reports to get the video length and the video names, just so we can put it through Google Calendar and get it sorted by event. To do that, it generates a text report through the command line with the FFmpeg, which we then associate the reports back to the videos. Creating the query to go through Google Calendar, make sure it's all part of the event, groups them all together, and it assigns all the information by extracting the JSON and processing it to get that event information. We then have 2 parts to the process, or branches off. One section, it's creating a list of the videos from each event broken down by the direction of the video. So you've got the road or in the cab. The other one sorts out the first video to get the start time and aggregates that to keep one video, which we can then run through the image recognition service. So we chose to do that with just the first initial video to keep the number of frames per second down, which generate through the system caller with FFmpeg. And then we read that through, we'll read them back in, assign a number for the order that the images sit, and then put them through the recognition connector, to which we search for the location that the ride time starts. We bring that back through to get the date and time. So each image has a timestamp on the image, which is different to the video length as it's in the local time rather than the duration. We use that to get the first cut time in the video. So a bit of a time difference calculation to get the difference between the start time and the time that the image was picked up with the location of interest. We then pop that back through Path Reader and filter out the videos based on whether they're road facing or inside facing, which we have to just regenerate as everything reads back in. The videos then need to be concatenated so they're all in one long video, which makes it easier for chopping it back up, pulling out the experience part of the ride. Easily done just with command caller, and then with that the start time's loaded through another command, splits up the video based on the time which we calculated the start time, and then the assumption that the first acceleration starts a minute beyond that. That writes out a list of videos that have been split up, which they come back through and concatenate to make a single short video.
Thanks a lot, Pip. That was awesome. I guess before we kind of move, well, 2 things. Number 1, if you could just run that process, so we've got something to show everybody then. We can show them the video that's been edited using FME. And I guess number 2 is, what do you think was one of the hardest things to do as part of that process, Pip? What do you think was difficult?
Probably trying to work out some of the time calculations.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it's that whole understanding the chronology of the videos, and because they're all separate videos first, bringing them together, and I guess the date time as well, right? Converting that into video time, and all the conversions associated with that. Yeah, that was a tough one, eh? All right, cool. So we'll leave you run that. We'll just cover off the rest of the stuff, and we'll come back to you, Pip. So just stand by. So we're to talk about use cases for this. Well, I think that a good place to start is the one that we've just shown. I think the power of FME to allow you to be able to do things you wouldn't otherwise be able to do based on the limitations of whatever. So if we look at this, we utilized FME to be able to repurpose videos that don't have any GPS. So being able to connect up to a calendar and extract time and link those together to allow us to generate event information, and then being able to extract images from the video to work out some start location within the video based on the recognition service and a marker in time and in space. It allowed us to be able to do what we did. So linking up an event from a calendar, grouping those categories together by name, and generating an experience-based video that allows us to just have that 2-minute clip of that 15-minute video is kind of cool. And it actually saves me a whole lot of editing time. And that's one of the reasons I haven't done it. I haven't edited a video for probably over 1.5 years now, just because it took up a lot of time. So being able to have FME now where we can capture all those videos from those specific events, chuck them into a folder, and FME will go off and do its thing and edit all these videos out, and I can just easily then supply that to the correct customer because it's identified that from the calendar information. So that's pretty cool. So the result, we've got a video just showing the highlights of the experience, which is pretty much what you want. All right. Anyway, scenario 2, well, I guess if you look at what my company is, it's a transport company in the sense we have to be complied for the road. But if we look at other transport companies, could be taxi services, it could be companies that transport different goods throughout New Zealand or elsewhere in the world. Similar type of thing, if they've got camera systems but they don't have GPS, even if they did have GPS, obviously that would offer another use case within FME to be able to edit. But again, working on the basis of just having the bare minimum, you've got a video, no GPS, they could use things like road assets across the road, signs for specific locations as marker to create locations that could be used to extract specific components of video. I mean, it could be, when transport companies go along a specific road, perhaps as high-risk areas, and they want to do check on their drivers for those specific areas, and they can just capture all the footage, process that through, use the recognition service to pull out just those specific locations, clip the images, and then they can watch that footage as opposed to watching it all from start to finish. And trying to find that location is the biggest problem, right? So again, yeah, similar sort of thing. At the end of it, we'd have video clips that are extracted from probably a whole host of different clips based on using FME and its ability to use the system caller and other services like the recognition service. And in scenario 3, I really like scenario 3, and this is something I could probably play with in my mind a little bit, looking and thinking about emergency services, police, fire, ambulance, etc. The ability to be able to use some kind of clever video extraction would be probably highly utilized by those types of organizations. So if you think, there's some form of incident, could be any one of the 3 mentioned above, where, law enforcement need to acquire security footage from different businesses based on that location, of course, time of the event, and also from the members of the public. So if you could receive all those different types of videos from all those different types of people and entities, and have a process in place like utilizing FME, where it can go in with the event details, find the time within the video, edit out, like a 5-minute buffer or a 10-minute, just depends on the incident, right? Was it a 5-minute incident, 10-minute incident, buffer on each side? You can see how that process would go, clip out whatever the required is, and do that in an automated fashion. And then you could just have your officers sit down or whoever and review those clips of that video. And that would obviously provide a more efficient ability to be able to take action on whatever had actually taken place. So yeah, reported incident, you got a time event, utilizing other footage that's available from the public or businesses, process that automatically with maybe some kind of buffer either side, and extract specifically event-based clipped videos that are ready for review. So that's kind of cool. That would be a good one to do, eh? Anyway, so moving on to bonus round, we'll have a look at the McLaren flying off to 102.8 seconds shortly. But bonus round, I talked earlier on about the use of system collar. The system collar really is just like a fantastic little transform. It allows you to do a whole host of things. I've kind of done a presentation on this before. We've talked about I deploy AWS, especially from a training perspective or presentations. I really enjoy using AWS because I can configure everything up. It goes nice and smoothly. A lot of time it takes to make sure you put your content together and make sure it works properly. And a good way to do that is AWS machines. You can make it consistent. You don't have to worry about drivers and all those different types of things going wrong, because you've just got a nice sterile environment that's nice and clean and ready to go. But anyway, it's part of setting up AWS machines, whether that be for training or presentation purposes, either without thinking about generating a clone of an AWS machine, so something that's already configured up, so making the assumption that we're starting from scratch, or reinstalling FME server, whatever it might be. There's a whole host of tools that you can actually create, which I've also created, that make my life much easier. So just to cover off a couple of these, generate and use host file. Why might we do that? Well, when we have an AWS machine, or it could be an Azure machine, usually what happens if you don't assign elastic IP, you shut those machines down, you relaunch them, and the IP address changes. What happens if the IP address changes? Well, that's a problem because the host file hasn't changed, and therefore our local host now will no longer access our FME server. But that's cool. So we can run a generate new host file workspace that will allow us to overcome this issue. What I used to do in the past, if I had a lot of people on training for FME server, you can only assign yourself 6 elastic IPs, which they're static, so they stay the same, and the other 4 I wouldn't have enough. So that would mean I'd have to get around that process. So either they just don't turn off the machines. As you know, sometimes people have a habit of just turning off the machine, which is probably a good requirement depending on where you're working. However, that being said, what is a workaround? Well, we could have the generate new host file set to trigger upon a new user logging in and/or they're connecting up to that machine or rebooting from that machine first time, and it will update the host file so they can access server. Well, I'm just going to show you those workspaces, just kind of sitting inside and how they work. Firewall configuration. This is a massive one for FME server deployment. Configuration of your firewall is a big thing, right? Why? Because you need your ports 80 open or 8080 depending on how you're deploying that. For WebSockets, so your topics, notifications, etc. You need 7078 open, and if these ports aren't open, FME server is not going to work correctly. You're going to spend a lot of time trying to work out why something's not working. For example, if you haven't got port 465 open SMTP, your email's not going to work. It's going to look like it's working, but it's not, and it's because it can't send it through the port. So again, looking at these tools is a way to ensure your deployment's correct. Check the configuration beforehand, perhaps even to make sure, if you're doing an upgrade of these things, how is it configured at the moment? Let's log and capture that information to make the deployment more robust moving forward. So remove the chances of things going wrong because we've done all those checks first. And again, these tools help you do that. So set AWS time to New Zealand time. That's just a real quick one, right? So it's just every virtual machine you deploy. If you haven't configured it startup, it won't be configured to the correct time. It's just a little script, just runs. And again, it's just trying to reiterate that process of being able to use the system caller to spit out commands into the command prompt that will allow you to be able to do some system action and not have to remember all the codes. That's the thing, not be able to remember all the codes. that makes it easier. And then lastly, I'm not actually going to show you this one, but this is something that's a bit of a work in progress, and that's the ability to be able to configure up FME server automatically using a workspace. So that's going to be generating your token, updating all the XML files that are associated with that, and editing the lines of those files so that the HTTPS configuration for your FME server will work correctly. And yeah, that's just a bit of work in progress at the moment. We've got probably 3/4 of the functionality working there, but there's a couple of things we've got to finish off. But anyway, yeah, so let's just show you a couple of these and how they work. So I'm just going to escape out of this. I've already got the workspaces open. So if we look at this one first, generate new host file. It's real simple. What it's going to do is creators, kind of like an initiator. We're going to run a system caller. Let's have a look at what we're running. So what this is going to say is going to run ipconfig. It's going to write that to ipconfig result.txt. And what that does is that means that we can access that text file that has the IP configuration. So it will give us the IP address for that specific machine. And then we're going to take that information and replace the host file with all the correct information that we need. So we're going to update that. So basically we're going in there, we're pulling out the IPv4, which is the IP address, we're going to replace and clean it up. And then we're going to template up the file that we want. So if we just have a look in here, this is us templating up the host file, and we're just going to overwrite the one that's actually there. So real easy peasy, simple workspace, again using system caller, making your life much easier. And then let's have a look at a couple of other ones that we've got here. This one is probably good when you start first time round. You're deploying FME server and you want to just configure all the ports from start just to make sure they're all set properly. So new machine, deploying FME server, and you want to open up all the ports that you need, you would just run this, or you could use quick, you could use the, oh goodness, what's it called? What's it called? You could use the quick translator. That's the word I was using for. Gosh, blank. You could use the quick translator for that. And if you look here, you've got here's the user parameters, add or delete. So this is the function we're doing for all these. If we add, we're going to add in all these ports. This one we're adding port 80. We're not going to pat 8080. You'd either do it one or the other. SMTP 25. No, we're not. And it's got a bit of description around what they are. You know, your Gmail, Outlook, etc. And your important one at the bottom here is WebSocket 7078, which is useful. And we will run that, and then what I'll go and do is I'll go and run this process here. Actually, sorry, one sec. We probably just want to look at one of these. So all the open ports will be processed individually by their value. So let's have a look at an add one. Here we go. This is what it does. So it's going to run this request here. Say I'm going to run CMD. That's actually, you need that because you need to be able to run this under administrator. So you actually need a shortcut to run first, a command prompt shortcut to run first. And then we're going to run this command net shush add firewall add rule name. This is the rule name, and then it's going to open up that port. So we run that, all the ports are open. And then once we've done that, we can go and do a test, right? We can go and see what ports we've actually got open. So if we go into the next one, 1 second, open ports check. So let's just run this workspace. Now we could use this workspace before, if we're doing an upgrade to server and we want to check how everything's configured now, just in case we're messing around with stuff, we can see all the ports are open. Perhaps there's new functionality you need to use, adding in another email, and you need to open up a different port for that, and so on. You could run this and see what the status quo is. So we just writing out HTML document right now, which comes up on this screen. So I'm going to bring this over. Here's all open reports. Let's have a look, see what's open on this machine. Okay, I'll bring this over here. So you see, we've actually only got port 80 open on this, and that's actually because I don't use server on this machine. But I tell you what, if we want to prove that this is working, we could go back in here and rerun that other one. So if we go into here, let's go and open up a few other things. We don't want to add port 80 because it's already added. Yeah, let's add some of these other ones. Let's run this. And yep, want to do that. Here we go. Yep, don't know why it's asking me to prompt for that. Probably because I've not run on this machine before. Yes, I'm letting you do that. Here we go. So the reason it's doing that, I think it's because it's not got that little short link here. I think that's why it's doing that here. Anyway, right, so there we go. We've opened that up now. So let's go and run the other one again. Let's go and run that report. So we go into here. Let's rerun that firewall report, see what it says. And hopefully, if all going well, we should have. It comes up here. Ah, look at that. Here we go. Fantastic. There we go. So we've opened up all those extra ports. It makes it so much easier to be able to do. All right. Anyway, so that's an example of the AWS tools. Like I said, I'm not going to go into the HTTPS one, but it's something I think will make things easier from a deployment perspective, especially setting that up. And that's a really cool thing, you know, being able to use FME as support tools for deployment. They're making sure they're part of a process to ensure that things don't go wrong in the future. Right, anyway, now that that bonus stuff's out the way, let's get to the real exciting thing of the day. Pip, are you there? Are you still, you haven't fallen asleep now, have you, on me? How are we looking for that video? Have we got it extracted?
Not fallen asleep, and yes, it's good to go.
That's all right. Okay, 1 second. I'm gonna make you presenter, right? And then we're gonna have a look at this. Gosh, this is where it takes me a moment. How do we do this again? Here we go. Make presenter. Here you go, Pip. Right, it's all yours.
Right, so you can see we've got all the videos, the concatenated one complete, and here's a little short one. Apologies.
By the way, guys, I love doing this. This is a lot of fun, right? Like, you probably don't capture the sound on this, but when you're out here engaged with the customer, they're laughing, they're giggling. It is a lot of fun. Coming on to the first on ramp, we're about to accelerate up to 100. Cool. There we go. It's automatically clipped out to the next section now. So this is where what we're doing is we're hitting all the on ramps. We're accelerating up to 100. You can hear us laughing because we're just like, yeah, it's good. And look, I've done over 1,300 rides now, or maybe 1,200 rides now, getting close to 1,300, and this never gets old. Anyway, so thank you very much for coming to our presentation. Really appreciate you coming to check out what we've put together for you, and hopefully you like what you've seen. And if you've got any questions, we'll be on questions answers after the presentation. And big thanks to Pip for helping support us put this together for you. Okay, yeah, we'll see you soon in questions and answers. Thanks, guys. Bye.